this is a 6 year. We're in 2022. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. So the number of the year associated with this year is 6. My personal feelings about numerology come out of the tarot because I'm a tarot reader, and so it's a lens that I apply to a lot of things. I haven't studied numerology in and of itself a whole lot, except in that context of like, you know, I know what sixes represent in the tarot. And that's something I think about a lot. If for example, like more than one 6 comes up in a reading, like what kind of energy does that bring? Like that is something that I think, to be a very nuanced tarot reader, is beneficial to think about. Let me talk about the 6s in the tarot and what they have in common. We have the 6 of Swords, which is kind of a taking away, moving you from a place of need into a place of safety, right? We have the 6 of Wands, which is a celebration, you receiving acknowledgement, you know, for your goals and gifts and being celebrated as is. We have the 6 of Pentacles, which is a card of generosity, a card of practical generosity, helping someone else along the path, you know, those types of generosity that's like, you need starter money, here's $50, you know, or, you know, you fell and cut your knee, well, I got a Band-Aid, let me help you out. Like that very practical generosity that's going to get you up and get you going again. Then we have the 6 of Cups, which I really associate with emotional generosity. Many people also associate nostalgia with the 6 of Cups. And I think they're very intertwined, because it does harken back to childhood and a warm-hearted part of childhood. Not the parts where we were getting traumatized, but the parts where someone was really being kind and compassionate to us, you know, and taking us by the hand. And what do these things have in common? Well, they all involve our relationship to other people. Even in the 6 of Swords, the person on the 6 of Swords is being helped. They're not on their own. And now, depending on the interpretation, right, this may or may not be literal. I may or may not literally be like, this is about someone in your life helping you do this. But the 6 is a number of community. It's a number of not being alone. And it's a number of the effect that you have on others and the effect that others have on you. I associate it with give and take. I think a lot about those Pentacles and Cups and that emotional and practical give and take. I look at those as 2 sides of the same coin, or 2 sides of the same cup, if you will. And to extend that into the 6 of Swords and the 6 of Wands, those are in some ways 2 sides of the same coin. 6 of Swords is a card of rescue. In order to be rescued, someone needs to recognize that you need to be rescued and be willing to help. And 6 of Wands is also a card of recognition. It is a card of having your strengths and your abilities celebrated and acknowledged, receiving accolades. And both of those cards, actually all of the 6s, I think allow us to kind of grapple with our own feelings around giving and receiving, our own feelings about seeing ourselves through others' eyes. It's hard. Sometimes we see clearly that someone sees us in a way that we don't see ourselves, and that's like a thing to grapple with. That often comes up in readings with the 6 of Wands. You know, it can often trigger our imposter syndrome to have someone actually be kind to us. Similarly, with the 6 of Swords, it can trigger our feelings of unworthiness to feel that we need to be helped. Like, who am I to be helped? Other people can just do this on their own, right? Unworthiness comes up again in the 6 of Pentacles and the 6 of Cups, where we're talking about giving and receiving, of generosity, and are we capable of receiving? So I just want to bring up all these concepts because I suspect that with 2022 being a 6 year, kind of all of this melange of ourselves in relationship to others, what it is to receive from others, what it is to give to others, what it is to see and be seen by others, that awakens all of our stuff, right? It's all of these are healthy things. The 6s are overwhelmingly positive cards that kind of turn us back to our inner work, because there's often a disconnect between how we view ourselves and how we sense that someone else views us, and what we feel we do and don't deserve. Deserving and worthiness are big themes around the number 6. And I'm curious to see how that manifests itself throughout the year. Maybe I'll happen upon this video a year from now and like think about what that means for 2022. Oh, while I'm doing that, let's talk about 2021. So 2021 was a 5-year. Fives are different. Let's again go through the suits of the tarot here, right? We have 5 of Swords, we have discord. People, there's a sense of betrayal with the 5 of Swords, and there's a sense of dominance, like a fight for dominance where one person is going to succeed and one person is going to be a little ripped off in some way. So there's like there's a sense of power struggle there. Now we have the 5 of Wands, also a power struggle card. Also 2 sides of the same coin, in my opinion, because the 5 of Wands is a different kind of power struggle. I have a friend, Susanna, who often describes this as like Facebook comments, like how things can snowball and escalate into a really horrible argument just from people having a very small disagreement about nothing, and then the whole day is ruined. So again, we have power, and in this case, it's a different type of power. It's this more subtle power of our words, or more subtle power of the influence we have on others that we don't realize. Again, we talk about influence because often what happens is those conversations is you're saying something, it hits someone different than you meant it, right? You say something and they misinterpret you to think that you're like tearing them down or being condescending or, making a judgment upon their character or something, when you're just kind of saying what you see or whatever. They get offended. They say something back to you. You get offended. You say something back to them, right? So we have power, and it's like this, in the 5 of Wands, I look at it as the unhealthiness of unrecognized power, like this refusal to recognize that you can have power over others leads to these great misunderstandings where both people are leveraging power against each other and both of them refuse to see the power they have in the situation to perhaps change the course of the conversation and express themselves in a way, that may be more, facilitate a better conversation, Then we have the 5 of Pentacles, a real bummer card, and a card, by the way, that came up for me in my last Celtic Cross, and here I am with COVID. The 5 of Pentacles really is a card of endurance, of enduring difficult times. Often there is a sense of needing to ask for help, and it's that very uncomfortable thing of not just like, asking for help, like, oh, it's good to have help, but like, no, I need help, and I don't know if I'll get it or not, sense of needing charity, sense of financial struggles, true financial struggles. Again, we talk about power, and in this case, the power relates to our resources and our realization that when we don't have certain resources in our lives, nothing else matters. I talk about this a lot, about how people kind of talk about money like it's dirty or something like that. And the truth is money has a tremendous amount of power in this current paradigm over us, because when we have none, we don't have a life. If you don't have money right now to keep a roof over your head and to feed yourself, unfortunately, the way our society is structured, then you're sunk, and it's a necessity. And it can be challenging and distasteful for many people to realize just how much power that very basic thing, this simple energy that has nothing to do with who we are as a person, has power over you. And similarly, your health, your health is a resource. If you don't have your health, it's real hard to have a good life. So the power of these kind of baseline needs, kind of the Maslow's triangle power. Then we have the 5 of Cups, and the 5 of Cups, much like the 5 of Swords, there's some betrayal involved. There's a sense of having been emotionally let down by another person, or by yourself perhaps, but I most often see it represented as like, I had high hopes for how things would go with this person, and wow, that it didn't happen exactly the opposite of how I hoped. And some people tend to view it as a crying over spilt milk card. I see that as a little discompassionate. I think that it's a card of like, some degree of heartache. You had high hopes and your expectations were not met. In fact, they were kind of trampled on, and now you have to deal with kind of the grief of the lost opportunity, the grief of what you thought was going to be and what you thought could have been, and now dealing with the reality, kind of the bitter reality. And that power, right? When we enter, especially the suit of cups is kind of a lovey suit in so many ways. When we enter our hearts into contract with someone, we don't realize that it's a contract, right? When we enter our hearts and open our hearts and show up for someone and invite them into our lives and care about them, we don't realize that the flip side of that is they now have power to hurt us. And we have power to hurt them. And if we don't recognize both sides of it, we get that Five of Wands vibe. So the theme of 2021 to me is about power, and it's about different areas of our life exercising power over us, kind of whether we like it or not, and us also having power to some extent. And I really do feel that about 2021, at least for me personally. It was a real year of noticing all these things that had power over me that I had no control to change. COVID, financial stuff, I had to do like a very particular, horrible dance with the bank that is in control of my mortgage during the times of COVID. And I had gone into forbearance and all of that. And in order to, like, once I, got out of forbearance and all of that, had to renegotiate my mortgage in the midst of this crazy time, with very little certainty of what would happen even in the next few weeks. And that was a power not just over like Five of Pentacles energy, like my resources, but also over my time, over my choices. I didn't have the option of making a different choice not to engage with this, honestly, deeply corrupt financial institution. I had to do the dance and I had to make it work. And that was the way power fell out in that moment. At other times, though, I realized that I had this tremendous power to create change simply by changing my mind. I realized how much power I had to decide where my time went. Maybe I couldn't decide every aspect of every day, but to decide, for example, if I was going to spend my time worrying, or if I was going to choose to schedule time to address whatever issue I was worried about and only focus on it then. And that was a big win in 2021, realizing I had the power to not be worried all the time. That power was in my hands. So yeah, I really do feel like I grappled with power in 2021. What about you? Do you feel that way? And I wonder if we will be grappling in 2022, if our lesson will be around, that's all that sick stuff, worthiness and being seen through the eyes of others, and give and take in relationships, how that will affect us. Those are my thoughts for the day. Farewell, everybody.